Jeffrey Dahmer. A name that instantly sends chills down the spine. In 2022, Netflix released Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer Story, and it quickly became one of their most watched shows worldwide. But with the success, obviously, came controversy in a lot of it. Today, I want to break down that series, the acting, the visuals, as well as the storytelling, but more importantly, the ethics. Are we learning something from these shows, or are we just consuming horror at the expense of real victims? So, let's start with the series itself. Directed by Ryan Murphy and starring Evan Peters, Monster is a chilling, slow-burn retelling of Dahmer's crimes. Evan Peters delivers a haunting performance, not particularly loud or overly dramatic, but quietly unsettling. His flat tone, awkward body language, the way he stares at people for a second too long, magnificent. One thing the series gets right is the tone. It's slow, tense, and deeply uncomfortable. The color grading is cold, grays, greens, and yellows, which evoke sickness and decay. The lighting is often dim, kind of claustrophobic. His apartment feels like a coffin. In the first episode, there's hardly any gore, yet it's terrifying. Why? Because the tension builds through the sound. The hum of the fridge, the buzzing fluorescent lights, his heavy breathing, and then there's a silence, long drawn out, a silence that forces you to sit with the horror and not to run from it. Now, how accurate is it? Surprisingly, many details are spot on. Dahmer did lure victims to his apartment. He did drill holes in their heads, and he did keep body parts in his fridge. But the show does take a few dramatic liberties, of course. For example, the confrontation between Glenda and the police, while part of it is rooted in truth, is kind of more symbolic in the show. Still, her calls to the police were ignored, and the justice system failed again and again. That's the one thing I think the show did well, exposing not just Dahmer, but the failures that enabled him and his horrific crimes. Now let's talk about the law. Dahmer was ruled legally sane, meaning he understood what he was doing was wrong and he could control his action. But here's the thing, legal sanity isn't the same as mental health. And when you look at his background, it's not hard to see the signs of deep psychological damage. His parents had a chaotic marriage. His father introduced him to roadkill dissection, was very socially isolated, a heavy drinker by his teens, and emotionally shut down. Was he evil? Possibly. But he was also a product of emotional neglect, rejection, and social alienation. I believe so. In criminal law, we talk about moral culpability, and while Dahmer does bear full responsibility, his descent wasn't out of nowhere. Dahmer's crimes weren't just about killing, they were about control, about keeping people from leaving him. Many of his victims were young gay men of color, vulnerable, isolated, like he was. And it's disturbing to consider how someone so lonely could turn that ache into violence. He didn't want company, he wanted possession. That's a dark evolution of trauma, especially through Evan Peters' performance hints at that. The way he mumbles, his dead eyes, the lack of emotional range. It's more terrifying because it actually feels human, man. And that's where things get ethically tricky. Monsters isn't just a show. It's a loop of trauma, one that the victims' families are forced to watch again and again, especially as the show becomes more and more popular. Many of them said they weren't even contacted by the directors, that they had to relive the worst days of their lives for the sake of entertainment. So, where do we actually draw the ethical line? True crime can educate. It can shine a light on injustice, but it can also sensualize, even glorify the killer, turning him into the protagonist of the pain that he caused. And the irony is, the more we watch, the more we reward that narrative. Dahmer was real, the pain was real, and that means we have a responsibility, not just to be entertained, but to be aware of what we're watching, why we're watching it, and who it affects. As a law student and a film lover, I think Monster succeeds in showing us how evil can grow in silence, but it also risks feeding our morbid curiosity rather than challenging it. What do you think? Should we keep telling stories like these, or do they actually do more harm than good? Drop your thoughts below.